welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond in London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, you good old boys in Canada. We love you in Africa, the Big C tribe. But there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south in the land of the free and the home of the brave on a beautiful May the 19th, 2020. Rondo Deportes, Big C. How's it going for you good old boys down south?
Charlton, we got a beautiful sunny southern day that's going on down here in the south, and want to say thank you and best wishes and prayers to all the frontline workers and healthcare workers out there, nurses, doctors, all these people who do a marvelous job every day and working to keep America safe and healthy.
We want to make sure we keep them all safe and healthy. We want to make sure that's all good. It's all fair and love and war. I want to say today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, just tell them Charlton and Big C sent you, as well as a fleet of Cadillac cars. Also, Big C Sports is powered by Google and Alexa. Just say Google or Alexa, play Big C Sports Podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear welcome to the show. I will introduce Big C as the mystic, and he'll do his thing from 3,000 miles away. And I really appreciate the way things are growing with Big C Sports. You can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity Comcast TV, Roku TV, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. But you better have a smart TV or you'll be seeing a still picture of Big C. I know that everybody is just itching at the bit to get started, kind of like those drag racing cars. They want to get started. But I want to make sure that we pay homage to our veterans, the Veterans Crisis Hotline. They are there, and they really are experienced at helping veterans and their loved ones get help. And unfortunately, I was listening to radio this morning about 3 o'clock in the morning, and they were saying that suicide is up among teenagers. Big C, that breaks my heart. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, it's up among everybody, Charlton. Our veterans have been suffering from this horrific disease for decades. We also have, because of social pressure and the social media that we have out here, Charlton, has driven many young persons to suicide, unfortunately, in this country. I mean, we have a pandemic of suicide that people don't want to address because they think it's embarrassing to their family or to their culture. But the National Suicide Prevention Hotline number, Charlton, is there not to offer embarrassment, but to offer help, to have someone to talk to. People that are sitting there and waging that pandemic, Charlton, they don't want to talk to people. They feel embarrassed that the pressure is too much there, that no one cares about them, that they're a lost soul. But the National Suicide Prevention Hotline number, Charlton, does not judge people. It helps people. It is there to assist them through these troubled times. And if people just take the time to pass out the National Suicide Prevention Hotline number to those veterans, to those young people that are troubled, they may not want to talk to you, but they'll talk to somebody that they think is non-judgmental.
Yeah, we'll make sure we keep doing that. Gonna try to clip your microphone also, Big C, but it's 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. Or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net. And you can definitely get this help. Also, very happy to be affiliated with Valley Homes Weekly TV on Dish TV, DirecTV, AT&T, Uverse, TV 53, home of the San Francisco Giants. And when you reach out to them, let them know that Big C sent you. The goal is simple. Recruit 100 real estate brokers. Put their property listings on TV, just like McDonald's does it. Car dealerships do it. And then sports teams will do it too. They're trying to get sports back in the swing of things. Let real estate and TV work together. 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624. For those of you looking for opportunities in real estate, go to bigcsports.pacwm.com. That's bigcsports.pacwm.com, and you'll see lots of opportunities there too. Big C, I know so much is going on in sports, and I want to get into some things about dominance in sports. And everybody wants to have the big car. They want to have the big bank account. They want to have the big house. They want to have that big husband or that big man. Or some guys want a big woman. It's all fair and level war, Big C. There's nothing wrong with that. but I want to get on the 10 most dominant big man performances in NBA history. And again, everybody has their opinion. I'm going to throw out some things and get your thoughts. I think you got to start at the top. You want to have big numbers. You want to have big accomplishments. How about dropping 100 points? That's the big Wilt Chamberlain. No other way to start this item off but then with having Wilt Chamberlain. He posted the most famous stat line in NBA history. It was March 2nd, 1962. He hit 100 points, Big C, versus the Philadelphia Warriors in a 169-147 victory, Big C, over the New York Knicks, your favorite team, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Wilt will be an iconic figure for the history of the NBA. When you think about records, he set all the records that people have been chasing throughout their entire career. The night that he scored 100 points, Wilt did that, and it will never be equaled. It will never be surpassed in NBA history. As we always talk about the greatest players in the game, who's better than who.
Yep.
No one can accomplish the things that Wilt did during his career, Charlton. And, you think about scoring that many points in one night. He was a 55% career free throw shooter.
Yeah, that's
And on
bad.
that night, he hit 24 of 26 free throws
Wow.
to get to that magic number of 100.
Yeah, it's amazing. He did not have a three-point basket, but he knew how to drop it in the bucket. Also, I want to look at a guy by the name of David Robinson. As the Spurs season final, April 24th, it was 1994. He needed 33 points to win the NBA scoring title over Shaquille O'Neal. There would not be much drama on that front, Big C, as Robinson, he jumped by O'Neal in the third quarter. He ended up with a career high of 71 points. He was 26 of 41 from the floor in a 112-97 victory over, you could always say just Shaq, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, you think about the Admiral, and he's one of the forgotten big men in NBA history. When you think about what he did for that San Antonio franchise, Charlton, a lot of people think about Tim Duncan, but he groomed Tim Duncan to be the great center that he was, to also be a part of the 5 championships that they had down in San Antonio.
Yep.
But you think about the pressure that's on a player when they go into a game knowing what they need to accomplish a scoring title at the end of the night, Charlton. But when you think about what David Robinson did and Shaq, we all know what happened in his career as he went on and went to the Lakers from the Orlando Magic. But David Robinson, one of the forgotten great big men in the NBA, led San Antonio to their first world title.
Yeah, the Admiral, Big C. You can't say any better than that. The Magic, think about that. They moved to center with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar out of the lineup. The transition was no talk after Johnson, who went 42 points, 15 rebounds, and 7 assists in a 123-107 victory over the Philadelphia 76ers. Magic would have as many more finals to follow up his rookie season when he won that year. 4 more championships for the Lakers in Los Angeles. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, that was a magical moment for the Lakers organization. You think about the number of times that the Lakers had been in the championship
Yep.
series, Charlton. That was the Lakers' 11th trip to the championship series, and they came out only with their 3rd title in organization history, Charlton. But as you think about Magic's accomplishments on that night, Kareem missed that game with a scratched retina, and so he didn't make the trip to Philadelphia. And Magic volunteered to go in and play center. They put Norm Nixon at the point guard, and Magic dominated. When you think about the front line that the Philadelphia 76ers had that time,
Yeah.
Caldwell Jones, Daryl Dawkins, Bobby Jones, even the great Dr. J was in that lineup, and George McGinnis.
Yeah.
But Magic went in as a rookie, a 6'8", guard who went down in the post and just dominated that night. His quickness brought something back to the team, Charlton, that they hadn't seen.
Magic Johnson, he saved the Lakers in that series, Big C, and now he's trying to save minority-owned businesses, helping his firm to give out $100 million in loans. Just an amazing thing for one human being. Hakeem the Dream Olajuwon, Big C, not even Olajuwon's dream shake. He could save the Rockets many times, but not this time. It was Game 6 of the 1987 Western semifinals. Hakeem the Dream Olajuwon, he spun his way for 49 points, which is half of what Wilt Still did, Big C. So 49 points is a lot, but Wilt Still was like, yeah, so what? But he had 25 rebounds. He had 53 minutes on the floor, but Dale Ellis put back with 50 seconds remaining, gave Seattle a 128-125 victory. Seattle needs basketball back, but what a game by Hakeem the Dream Olajuwon, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, you think about the dream, and here's a guy who came to this country as a soccer player, Charlton, and learned the game of basketball and became one of the most dominant big men in the NBA. He eventually led Houston to 2 world titles down there with the Rockets, Charlton. But you think about a game like that, and everyone knew that Olajuwon could outrun any big man in the game, and that was his thing in his career, is that he was going to outwork everybody. In the Dream Shake, I mean, they still got cheerleaders that haven't turned around yet from the Dream Shake. But 49 points and 20 rebounds and a loss, that's a hell of a night.
Yeah, I wonder how the Dream Shake would have looked on Soul Train with the great Don Cornelius Big C, but it's all fair in love and war. The great Wilt the Stilt Chamberlain pulled down 55 boards. Chamberlain, he actually eclipsed the great Russell's previous mark of 51 rebounds in one game with an outstanding performance. It was November of 1960. He grabbed 55 rebounds alongside 34 points. The only problem was the Chamberlain's Warriors, they lost to Russell's, and the Celtics fall on 132 to 129. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, whenever you address the record book of the NBA, it's always one name that continuously comes up.
Yep, there he is.
Wilt Chamberlain,
Yep.
To have such a dominant individual, and when you think about the modern press, they don't think about Wilt as being one of the greatest players in the history of the NBA. Wilt built the NBA. He set the table for everybody. When you think about points, when you think about rebounds, everyone at one point was chasing Wilt's records. And I think he's still in the top 6 in scoring in the NBA. But to pull down 55 rebounds, that's a team worth of rebounds, Charlton, and that's doing yeoman work, and he was able to toss in 34 points to go along with that.
Yeah.
But it also shows you how strong and dominant that Celtics organization was, led by Bill Russell. You eclipse somebody's record, and I know Russ had to be a little steamy that night. He's like, I pulled 51, and that won't hold up.
Yeah, and Wilt held so many records. If they ever did a special on Wilt Chamberlain, I think it would trump, no pun intended, Michael Jordan's special from back in the day, especially off the court. But you got to give a man credit to pull down that many rebounds and also score as many points as he's been known. Shaquille O'Neal, unconventional triple-double, the second-year center. He got a lot bigger when he left LSU. Maybe he started lifting more weights, Big C, but the second-year center took a matchup with the Nets, notching a rare triple-double. Shaq went for 24 points, 28 rebounds, 15 block shots, in an 87-85 victory. Now that would be a halftime score, Big C. Your thoughts?
As a halftime score, and you think about it, that's only half the rebounds that Wilt had got in that game during the Celtics. But the Big Diesel wasn't so big when he was down in Orlando. I think when he went to L.A., they had a lot more beef and less seafood out there that he started chomping down on. But, you saw the maturation of Shaquille O'Neal throughout his career. You saw him being dominated by Hakeem Olajuwon at one point in the finals when he was with Orlando. Not until he teamed up with the late, great Kobe Bryant did he mature completely and start dominating the NBA. But that was just a sign of things to come that night with the Nets when he pulled that miraculous triple-double.
Yeah, it was low-scoring games back in the day. They scored like they did back in the 80s, Big C, but they take the championship and keep it anyway. I want to go to the great Dirk Nowitzki, one of your good old friends, the European player. Nowitzki ignited a sold-out crowd in Dallas, lit up the Thunder to the tune of 48 points. He had the highest arcing shot I've ever seen in the NBA. Of the most efficient performances of all time, he took just 15 shot attempts that day, Big C. He was 12 of 15 from the field. He added 24 efforts from the foul line, and not even a 40 points from Kevin Durant could make you derail the Mavericks on that night, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, when you think about the risk, Dirk Nowitzki, when he got in this groove with the Dallas Magic during that championship run to bring the NBA title to Dallas, I mean, he was just unbelievable playing against that Oklahoma City team that had Westbrook, Durant, and Harden, and Ibaka on that team, Charlton, along with Kendrick Perkins. But Dirk Nowitzki, was on a mission when he was in Dallas to bring that championship down there. But you think about the efficiency that he had that night as a big man. His rivals back when Bill Walton won an NCAA title, and he only missed one shot against the University of Memphis.
Yeah, they've always had the big men. Again, everybody wants the big car. They all want the big house. They want the big bank account. They want the big man or the big woman. Is all fair level word, Big C. And when you think about big, a Sleepy Sunday crowd in Detroit, they bore witness to an unstoppable scoring display. A guy by the name of Anthony Davis, it was February 21, 2016. He had that eyebrow that he didn't want to get rid of, Big Z. But think about it. He had a lot of mid-range jumpers on the Pistons. He tortured them for 59 points. He had 20 rebounds. He was 24-34 from the field, and he became the second youngest player in league history to record a 50 and 20 stat line. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, tremendous output. If Anthony Davis could ever stay healthy,
yeah,
through a season, he showed people early on when he came to the Pelicans what he could do, how he could dominate the NBA. This was a guy who grew up as a point guard, and all of a sudden he grew into the center position when he was at North Carolina. But Anthony Davis is one of the uncanny talents of the league. He has all the ability. And to pull a 50-20 game, Charlton, we've talked about the greats like Hakeem,
yep,
Wilt, Shaq. These guys are phenomenal.
Yeah, they're not only big, they were talented. Oftentimes you had thoughts of a big man not being very light on his feet, but that you can't say that about our list so far. However, you want to think about another big guy, not as big in stature, but big in heart. You think about Charles Barkley. He erupted in the series final. It was Game 7 of the 1993 Western Conference Finals. The round mound of rebound put the Suns on his back in front of a raucous crowd at U.S. Airways Arena. He had 44 points, 24 rebounds. Barkley, think about this. He scored 10 of those boards on the offensive glass, sending the Spurs to the first NBA Finals since 1976. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, the round mound, here was a guy when he came into the NBA, he looked like the fat boy looking for cake every time. But Charles Barkley was a phenomenal athlete, standing only 6'4", but the ability to move with the ball, to play inside, outside, and dominate the game. We talked about Magic when he was with the Lakers going against the Celtics, not the Celtics, but the 76ers when he moved in the center. Here's Charles Barkley, who was no more taller than the average guard in the NBA. He could go down and dominate the paint. He sent the Suns to their first title since '76.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, they had to face the Chicago Bulls.
Yeah, a lot of people said unfortunately when they had to face Michael and the Chicago Bulls. And I guess they should have sent Michael some pizza that night, and maybe they would have gotten over the hump. I want to also think about just another dynamic player. When you think about Russell, he seals the NBA Finals. The NBA's ultimate champion came to play when it mattered most in Game 7. It was the 1962 NBA Finals facing off against the Lakers. It was the old rustic Boston Garden with no air conditioning, Big C, in the parquet floor. Russell got the best of Elgin Baylor. Remarkable game. He had a great finals record, 40 rebounds to go with 30 points in a 110-107 win. And the performance gave Boston its fourth consecutive NBA title, even though that parquet floor had a lot of soft spots and a lot of times other opponents couldn't figure it out. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Russell knew where to jump, and this is the second time that you mentioned Russell. You mentioned him earlier when Wilt Chamberlain broke his all-time record of 51 in a game, but he came back to win a championship. You think about how that feels, Charlton, when you're playing for a championship, and you go out and you grab 40 rebounds and score 30 points.
Yeah.
What a dominant performance by an individual. What a great leader that Bill Russell was. And this is what's been forgotten about the NBA was the era of the big men when guys played in the paint and they could still score. You didn't need a three-point shot to be a dominant scorer, to be a dominant player. The guys worked hard, and they were rewarded for that. The fundamentals of basketball, the way the game used to be 30, 40, 50 years ago, Charles, to compare where it is now. Let me go out and see if I can jack it up from three.
Yeah, it's about teamwork. And a lot of the big guys that, big guys have always been like big and slow, except for the guys that dominated. And I hope that list was entertaining. Again, everybody has their own opinion, but that's what I think was something worth talking about. So
when you think about those guys that you just mentioned, Charlton, they can all get out on the break. We see Anthony Davis running up and down, leading the break now with the Lakers. Remember Hakeem Olajuwon when he was with the Rockets? This was one of the most fleet-footed big men that we've ever seen in the history of the NBA. Admiral David Robertson, he was chiseled. He looked like a little bodybuilder out there on the floor. These guys that we're talking about, the biggest one was probably Wilt at that time. But Shaq eventually grew beyond that.
Yeah.
But Wilt was a great track star when he was at the University of Kansas. So these guys just weren't big lumbering people. They were great athletes.
Yeah.
And Bill Russell also was a track star. He was a high jumper.
I want to get your thoughts on Wilt. There's so much. Did he really score 100? We didn't have the sports centers back in the day, and everybody has their own stories. I know guys that go fishing. They may have caught a 2-foot fish, but 10 years later that fish was 5 foot long, Big C. So as far as we know what he did outside of the court, and that's his own business. But on the inside, to see someone as athletic and so dominant, what is it about him that still has people comparing even the present-day big men to the great Wilt the Stilt Chamberlain? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, he's what big men were measured off of, Charlton. When you think about what he accomplished as a basketball player in the NBA, not only just did it with one team, he did it with three teams. You got to realize Wilt Chamberlain took three different organizations to the NBA title, Charlton. He took the Philadelphia 76ers to the championship series. He took the Golden State Warriors to the championship series. He took the Los Angeles Lakers to the championship series. And that iconic 100-point game that he had when he was with Philadelphia when they were playing the New York Knicks, that will stand the test of time. But when you think about his accomplishments overall, here's a guy who averaged 54 points for a regular season. For 82 games, he averaged 54 points. You talked about a couple of players that reached the 50-point plateau in your, talking of players. He also averaged 52 points on another season. So when you think about Wilt Chamberlain having two seasons in the NBA where he averaged over 50 points a game, not only that, he backed up both of those seasons, Charlton, averaging over 20 rebounds a game. And so as you talk about the rareness of players getting to 50 points in an NBA game, and then you think about the rareness of being able to get 20 rebounds. Wilt Chamberlain averaged that back-to-back seasons in the NBA. So the accomplishments of Wilt will never be duplicated.
Yeah, everybody wants a big bank account, big house, big cars, big man, big woman, whatever they want. Wilt did it all, and I know they'll still be talking about big guys comparing themselves to Wilt even in the next 100 years. So that's Big C's thoughts on the 10 most dominant big man performances in NBA history, and I really appreciate having the fact to talk about some of those guys. I want to bounce the ball over to the world of the NFL. I know NFL is the king of sports, Big C, and you think about the Oakley testing face mask with an N95 material. The NFL is actually partnering with Oakley to test a modified face mask that may contain surgical or N95 material, according to the NFLPA, the medical director, Tom Mayer. I know we're all trying to find a way for science and medicine to advance. I know they used to have the old football helmets with kind of the coil kind of on the inside of the helmet, kind of like a strap. And then they came out with the bike helmet. You could pump them up and make them fit your brain. And now they have more outside helmet technology. Give me your thoughts on the N95 material, if that comes to fruition. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, what they're talking about is experimenting with a face guard scenario. I mean, you think about the shields that a lot of players wear on their helmets to, cover their vision and protect their eyes. And now, they're doing this from a health measure to see how players would react to having this shield around their mouth and nostrils, Charlton, when it restricts the airflow as far as them breathing. And I know years ago, when that face shield first came out, and players were complaining about it fogging up and not being able to see and it getting more heated inside the helmet. The NFL right now is looking for safety measures to protect its product and its players. And that has to be first and foremost in everybody's mind. Not just playing the game, but how do you play the game safely? How do you test the players regularly? How do you test everybody around them? But not only give the players facial and breathing protection, but everybody else affiliated with the organization and the game. Officials would have to also wear one of those also, Charlton, in officiating the game.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because, as you mentioned, people get up in age, and athletes, when they come down with COVID-19, for the most part, they get through it. They're young. They have all the energy and the stamina. They sweat a lot. They eat, for the most part, the best foods. And so you can tell by looking at an athlete that most of them are in tip-top shape. Even the officials, they're in pretty decent shape. But do you wonder, and I don't know the answer to this, should there be maybe an age clause that if you're an official, maybe you can't be more than 50, if that makes any sense? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, then you're going to get into a discrimination lawsuit, Charlton, if you come into that. I mean, it comes down to everybody involved, being involved in testing. I mean, when you look at coaches in the NFL, think about the number of coaches in the league that are over 50. In all professional sports, whether it's baseball, basketball, football, hockey, you have a copious amount of coaches that exceed 50. Not just the head coach, but a lot of assistant coaches are elderly, Charlton, when you think about that, because the knowledge that they possess is hard to get rid of. And so, it's going to be a very tedious scenario as they look at it and try to figure this out. Who is going to be vulnerable throughout this? I mean, because you're not going to allow any owners to come to the game?
Well, they get up in the press box. I'm sure this might be the year that Jerry Jones actually stays up in his luxury suite and not come down the field. But it's all fair and love and war. I know we got to have experiments with it, and it's just a part of the process. They're going to do whatever they can to try to keep people safe. We're going to take what's called the Big C timeout, also known as the Big C pause. When we come back, I want to get your thoughts, Big C, on like 5 big questions that are looming over college football. There's a lot of things looming over college football. We're going to take the Big C pause. We'll be right back in just a moment. All right, we're back from the Big C timeout, also known as the Big C pause. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on the app that I love called Google. Or Alexa, just say Google. Or Alexa, play Big C Sports Podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear Welcome to the Show. I will introduce Big C as the Mystic, and he'll do his thing from 3,000 miles away, and I really appreciate the way things are growing with Big C Sports. You can follow Big C Sports Podcast on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. But you got to have a smart TV or you'll be looking at a still picture, and I really appreciate that. I'm very happy to be affiliated with Valley Homes Weekly TV on DirecTV, AT&T Uverse, TV 53, home of the San Francisco Giants. Just tell them Big C Central. The goal is simple. Recruit 100 real estate brokers, put their property listings on TV, and car dealers do it, food companies do it, and sports teams too. When they come back, I know they're coming back soon. Let TV work for your real estate. 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624. Big C, I want to make sure that everybody has their own opinion. I have a son that's ready to go off to college, and I know there's so much talk about what do parents do. We always stay in touch with our medical doctor, and the herd mentality. They're just saying the powers that be. Science is not saying it, but the politicians are saying, hey, we'll just get people tested if they get sick. So I want to ask you some thoughts. 5 big questions looming over the college football season, and also for every parent. Number 1, what happens when an athlete gets COVID-19? The biggest worry among every level of university enterprises is a so-called start and stop scenario for a football season, and the outbreak would likely mean ending the season and perhaps losing a significant amount of television revenue. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, that is the biggest thought process of it all, Charlton. What are the health risks with bringing all these young men back to play college football? And they haven't even addressed the issue with the cheerleaders and cheer squads and even the bands, Charlton. What do you do about them? Are you going to discriminate against them, tell them they can't participate, and only the ball players can go out on the field? I think right there you might be looking at a class action suit of discrimination within the university. But, I don't know if the universities have really fully addressed that issue, Charlton, and it's a real concerning one. Because what do you do if you get an athlete that tests positive? What if you get a handful of athletes that test positive? Do you just say, we'll quarantine them and, put everybody else out there? You can't be that insensitive about it, Charlton. I mean, and shutting it down, I feel personally, like you said, as a parent, even as a former athlete, that's something you need to do, because the need to protect the athletes over the long run outweighs the short-term loss that you would experience.
Yeah, and I have friends on all sides, Democrat, Republican, conservative talk show hosts, moderate talk show hosts, whatever it is. And when I hear some of my elder statements that are saying that they think this is a farce and we got to be tougher as society, and we want to make sure that people aren't afraid to get out and drive and eat and breathe and date and do whatever. Most of these old guys, one thing they never talk about, they never talk about not trusting science when they're taking their medication. A lot of these guys that I know, they're popping 5 to 6 medications every single day for cholesterol, high blood pressure, diabetes, whatever issue they have going on. Not one of those knuckleheads that's saying get out there and don't worry about COVID-19. If you get it, you can just, you can quarantine for 2 weeks. None of those guys, none of them are talking about not listening to science when their doctor prescribes high blood pressure, whether it's whatever it is, 5 to 9 pills they're taking every day, they don't talk about not taking that, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, it's amazing how people can be judgmental when it's not their health that they're talking about.
That's right.
It's like, we did a show, several weeks ago, Charlton, where we were talking about faith and trusting science. If you're going to trust faith, walk out to the edge of a 10-story building and walk off of it. That's your faith. It will catch you. Or do you going to trust the science knowing that you're not going to make it? And that's how it is when you come to judging this. Everybody has that opinion who is not putting their life at peril.
Yeah.
As everybody wants to be judgmental on all the talk shows on television and radio. But yet they're practicing social distancing. They're not in the studios together. They're on these teleconference internet calls, Charlton, dealing with each other. They're trusting science, but they're saying the athletes should not believe it.
Yeah, I even heard, ironically, because I did an internship at the same station that he worked for when I was out of college, Rush Limbaugh was on a program advocating the hydroxychloroquine. Why not try it? And he's dealing with cancer. And I'm sure Rush Limbaugh is listening to every word that those doctors who are trying to save his life are telling him. I'm sure he's not telling him, hey, I don't got to listen to you. I can get anything I want to get. We know he had the Oxycontin problem, never had to pay a price for it. But he himself is one of the biggest advocates of not listening to science until it's his butt dealing with how to save his own life. Big, so your thoughts?
Well, what he's doing, he's stumping for the president, that hydroxychloride, Charlton, that he's using, what he says he's using it. And I doubt that he's using it because you have to be under a doctor's care, and they're saying that you should be hospitalized while you're using it, not just running around. And a person who is obese like the president, who has a heart problem like the president, it's not recommended for them. So the president is pushing this, he's stumping this. If you ever pay attention to what the president is saying, he's always deflecting. And you think about it, what's bothering him right now? What's bothering him, Charlton, is the economy and the death rate. You ever notice how they stopped talking about the loss of life from the coronavirus? You ever notice how they stopped talking about the number of people who tested positive? It's almost been still because he demanded from the health departments from the state not to report the numbers. Matter of fact, the person that was in charge of the health department in Florida was fired today.
Yeah, he got fired.
Because they would not fudge the numbers. They wanted to report accurate numbers. They would not hold the numbers back. So the governor fired them.
Yeah.
The Republican governor.
Yeah, I know a lot of people, a lot of older white guys that I know in the mortgage industry, and they're saying, hey, isn't Trump, what about Trump? They're just trying to get rid of Trump. He's taking medication. He got to try something. I ask him that same question. How many medications are you on? Most of them between 5 and 9. Why are you on the medication? Because your doctor told you to. Stop taking it. Put your money where your mouth is. None of those knuckleheads will stop taking it. So do students need to go back to campus is the question. And I'm thinking about that too. The initial thoughts here, Big C, is that college presidents, and most all of them are probably on some type of medication or placebo, Big C. These administrators, they want students to come back to learning on campus, and before inviting athletes back, they all know that they get paid more money when they go to work. They almost feel like, just in hearing, it's okay to lose a few people if they get sick. As long as it's not me or my kids, they're okay with it, Big C. Your thoughts?
And that's a selfish thought, Charlton, when you're looking at that. And I understand the need and want to have the students on campus. But you cannot protect, even when you bring these students and the student athletes back on campus. How are you going to handle the testing? It first came out when COVID-19 first came out. It's like, well, young people are going to be immune to this. It's only attacking the elderly. And they've seen how that has changed. The numbers have indicated that young people are at risk also. Then you look at the faculty and staff that's involved in most universities, Charlton.
Yeah.
Those are generally elderly people that have tenure on these campuses.
Yep.
So what are you going to do about them? And we go back into the coaching staffs at these universities. All of them are not young men. Nick Saban's an old man. He's almost 70 years old when you look at him.
Yep.
And many other coaches are in his age bracket when we think about head coaches and assistant coaches around campuses. So, it's a health risk all the way around, but nobody's addressing the issue. How are you going to test? I know that they're hiding the test in the general public.
Yeah.
But how do you keep it away from the athletes and not test them and all the people that are surrounding them?
Well, some people mistakenly say we're at war. We're not at war. We haven't had the military go to war to fight this. This is a scientific issue, and when they call it war, it makes them feel tough, and a lot of those guys had their ferments anyway. So I want to ask again, I know I believe in trusting my medical doctor. That's when it comes to me and my family. I want to make sure that I at least do that, irrespective of what any college president says. But who will make the ultimate call, Big C? The NCAA. They'll have a little to say in football's return. You know, they're doing that for money, not for health. Conference commissioners, they're in meetings every day. In the classroom, no. They're on meetings in Zoom. But they're saying we need to get the kids back in the classroom. And a lot of the people with tenure, they won't even be teaching their classes anyway. They'll send their side study in to teach. But there's still a lot of worry that leagues are going to eventually scatter to uphold the best interest. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you know, it really is, Charlton, because this is a financial matter. It's not about anything else. I mean, they can address this any kind of way that they want, that they want the student athletes back on campus. They want the whole, you know, student body on campus. No, they want to play games. They're looking at the lost revenue from not playing games, Charlton, and that's the elephant in the room that nobody wants to talk about, is that they're putting money in front of health.
Yep.
If this was a fight about getting just students on campus, Charlton, and continuing education, then it wouldn't even be a conversation, because you can do that online. I mean, students start going online. I mean, they canceled the finals in basketball. We didn't have March Madness.
Right.
They told everybody that was canceled. And then so everybody was doing that online. We didn't have the Little League, the College World Series in baseball.
No.
Those students, they could not go to school. They could not cohabitate with each other. So everybody did online learning. My kids did the online learning in college, Charlton.
Yeah.
So if it was just about education, these conversations wouldn't be existing. This is about money. This is the sacrifice of young individuals, putting them in harm's way. But even more dangerous, Charlton, are going to be the elderly people that are involved in these coaching staffs, in the administration, and even in the support staff with these sports teams.
You know, ironically, we talk about all the time that sports is a unifier, that it really brings people together from different backgrounds. People will play sports with people that they don't go to church with. Sometimes they'll play sports with people that they would never date or be in a social setting, but they'll go to a game and wear the same hat and T-shirt and say, hey, you know, give each other high fives when we could give high fives. But I love football as much as anybody, but I just want to keep reminding myself and anybody else that I talk to, because there's a lot of guys saying, hey, you can't be afraid to go out and do things. When I played football, you had to have a physical before you could play. That if you didn't pass the physical, you couldn't play, no matter how big, strong, and fast you were. So what will the college football playoffs, if we get that far, I know we're looking way down the road, but what will it look like at a time when every school is enduring a financial crunch, nearly $500 million annually that flows down to the campus from the college football playoffs, and the New Year's 6 bowl games are the closest thing to a unifier that the sport has ever had. Officially, there hasn't been any discussion about the college football playoffs role, because I fear, not that I fear, but I presume that if they have a start to the season, there's going to be some way that they have to put a stop to it, because lawsuits are going to start happening when people start getting sick when science says no. Big C, your thoughts?
That's going to be the first major thing, Charlton, a lawsuit. You know, the attorneys are sitting there salivating right now, waiting on a student athlete to come down with COVID-19. And so you can't even get to the point of discussing these New Year bowl games as well as the college football playoffs, Charlton, because if you have a modified conference schedule, how do you determine who is what? I mean, if you have teams that, you know, end up with a tie, you know, you stop the season after 4 to 6 games, you can't sit there and say, okay, we're going to have a playoff with that, because now at risk. I mean, and if some students come up with this COVID-19, as you say, are you going to stop the season in the need of the rest of the kids staying healthy? That is the biggest concern. But as you just mentioned, the money is the elephant in the room when you talked about the $500 million.
Yeah, $500 million is a lot of money. And from what I'm understanding, and nobody really knows 100%, but there are some doctors saying that this could cause people to become, it could affect their reproductive system. Why in the world would you do that to a young college kid, and you're putting them in harm's way, and it may affect their reproductive system, men and women? It's just crazy, Big C. So I want to get your thoughts again, and everybody has their own opinion. When you sum it up, if we don't have a football season, then you probably don't have an athletic department. A lot of people are thinking that, generally referring to the importance of football in athletic department's budget. But what's more important? Is life and your reproductive system more important than playing a football game when the mice on the field, if that makes any sense to you, they don't get paid. Does that make any sense? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when you look at a lot of these major universities, you look at all universities that have football, it is the major financial support of all athletic departments, Charlton. When you're talking about football programs bringing in excess over $100 million, and many of them bring in over $50 million in profit, Charlton, for the year. That's going to fund a lot of Title IX programs. We've seen where universities have cut many auxiliary sports, Charlton, that don't produce money. Tennis, golf, track and field, some baseball programs. We've seen that continuously. There was a MAC school today that cut 3 programs, Charlton, 3 athletic programs, and cut almost 30 athletes and 2 coaches. Took away those scholarships and jobs.
Yeah.
So as we look at football being the financier, and that's what everybody's looking at, that it's the financier. I understand the need for football. Football provided for me a great way of life. It provided an education. It provided for me to get out the doldrums that I grew up in and allowed me to see more of the world than I ever would have seen. And also gave me that free education, Charlton, that my parents could not afford. But as we look at it now, we didn't go through the troubled times back in those days, Charlton, 50 years ago, that we're going through now. But what we're looking at now, Charlton, is catastrophic. And you would hope that, the sensibility and it would be some adults in the room that say, we need to take a pause. I know you do that a lot at the beginning of the show, but we need to take a pause.
Yeah.
At what is really important. And I know we all have the need for sports. We want to see live entertainment.
Yeah.
But we don't want to see lives lost just to have that entertainment.
If we go down that slippery slope, when will they start getting the mom and pop soccer leagues going? Because from what I see and what I've experienced, there's a big push to get these young black kids, because no one's talking about Harvard playing football. They're not talking about the Division II programs. They're talking about the Power 5 primarily, the guys you're going to see on TV. And for the most part, 80% are black. There's a big push to get these young black kids out there playing sports so that white men and women can fill up their bank accounts. Are they going to push for young white kids to play mom and pop these soccer leagues? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, we hear nothing about that, and I constantly reiterate on the youth programs, Charlton, that we don't hear anything about that, and how do they protect the youth? I mean, that's the feeder pond, Charlton, for those colleges later on. How do you protect those kids? And God forbid, because they said the youth were, had anonymity against this, Charlton, but we've seen that, some young kids have lost their lives, unfortunately, and been affected by this coronavirus, Charlton. So how do you keep them safe? And then how do you keep the people that are around them safe? You're not going to be practicing social distancing while you're up there in the stands, cheering this on, yelling back and forth, Charlton. And the kids are going to be breathing on each other.
Well, as a Caucasian friend of mine, colleague that I work, he's up in his late 60s. He said, man, Charlton, people just got to be tough. They got to be willing to take chances. I said, how many medications did you take this morning before you took your chances coming out of the house? And he says, well, I got to take those. Yeah, but why don't you just be tough? Stop taking your medication. That knucklehead said, well, that's different. It's not different. It's just not him. So we talked about 5 big questions looming over college football return, and people will do what they want to do, but everyone should at least talk to your doctor. I want to make a rear naked choke, Big C. And sports star fans, they're turned up for the UFC in big numbers on Saturday. I remember when Uriah Faber opened his gym in Northern California, Team Alpha Male. We did the interview with Uriah Faber. It was right after the Mayweather and Conor McGregor fight. He came on the program, and there's so many people that fly in from all over the world to train in Northern California. The Nielsen ratings for the preliminary broadcast of UFC 249 on ESPN, the pay-per-view sales, they were very strong. UFC 249, would you believe it generated over 700,000 pay-per-view buys? Big C, your thoughts?
Dana White is not going to hold off on this, and that's the reason why. You think about it, over 700,000 people paid to watch these fights going on, Charlton, with nobody in the stands. That's how hungry people are for sports. So Dana White is making a killing. And you think the rest of the sports leagues are not paying attention to Dana White, Charlton? The ticket price for that UFC 249 was $64.99.
Yeah.
$64.99. That meant that Dana White pulled a television revenue of excess of $45 million on Saturday night for that event that he held. No crowd involved, Charlton.
No.
Just the fighters. And I don't think either one of the fighters made $1 million.
No.
But Dana White pocketed over $45 million just from TV sales alone.
Yeah, it's amazing how what money talks and something else walks. I forgot what it was that walks, but they say money talks and a lot of other things walks. And Dana White says, "Hey, just give me my money. Who cares about what people think?" In Seoul, it was South Korea. The K-League issued an apology, Big C, for all the female dolls that they had in the stands with face masks on. In times like this, you wonder how many people need dolls as inventory. What happened to the male dolls? They were all female dolls. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you think about the Korean market, Charles,
yeah,
and what everybody was saying about the dolls, that they were adult entertainment dolls.
Really?
And I'm wondering, in this pandemic time, since you got to stay at home in quarantine, how are there so many dolls left in the
Yeah.
I would think that you'd have a hard time, finding some weights to lift or a bike to ride.
Yeah.
But Charlton, they have an excess of these dolls, and I think the discrimination came because they all had face masks on.
Yeah.
And if they didn't have face masks on, Charlton, I don't think anybody would have said that they were adult entertainment dolls.
Yeah, hey, people got to do what they got to do. Is all fair in love and war, and that's been one of the oldest businesses in the world. I want to take a U-turn real quick. I want to remember Jim Tucker, the trailblazing NBA champion who passed away at age 87, and the trailblazing former NBA player passed away Thursday from complications of Alzheimer's disease. He won an NBA championship as a rookie for the Syracuse Nationals back in 1955. He also relocated in 1963 and became the Philadelphia 76ers, joining Hall of Fame pioneer Earl Lloyd as the first African-American to play for an NBA title. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, as people want to celebrate the last dance and how it became, and Michael Jordan, the greatest basketball player of all time, you have to remember the pioneers who made an opportunity for Michael Jordan to play in the NBA. You talked about the greatest big men of all time, the 10 greatest performances of big men in NBA history.
Yeah.
But when we think about trailblazers like Jim Tucker, Charlton, guys who had to operate under Jim Crow to play basketball under discrimination in America and be booed and jeered while they were trying to earn a living and just be athletes. We think about how far African Americans in the athletic field have come since those days.
Yeah.
But we always have to remember, and even those current and past players have to remember the players like Jim Tucker who sacrificed for them to be able to play the great game of basketball today, Charlton.
Yeah, definitely thoughts and prayers to his family. What a great man. I wanna close out, Big C, in the final few minutes. The NFL, they have approved kind of a better version of the Rooney Rule, where you have to interview minority head coaches candidate and the coordinator. So now they're saying you got to interview two people. I know there's no perfect way, just like any relationship, there's no guarantee that it's going to last, but you got to go into it with good intentions unless you don't have good intentions, if that makes any sense. Give me your thoughts on the revised Rooney Rule, Big C, your thoughts.
Well, actually, they did revise it, Charlton. They tabled it. They had to propose for a vote. They decided not to vote on it. The thing I look at with the NFL Rooney Rule, why do you have to have the rule? If you have good intentions about yourself, you have good intentions about yourself. If you're going to hire somebody, you're going to hire somebody. You have to give somebody an opportunity to interview. When they come in and they can explain their business plan to you, and that business plan is clairvoyant, Charlton, to let you know that they have leadership qualities, you got to just close your eyes and listen to the conversation that's going on.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the owners, have short-sightedness at, Charlton, is that they don't close their eyes and listen to the proposal that's put across by one of these potential coaches. Is all they do is see the color of the individual when they walk into the room. It reminds me of when I was younger and you'd go out for a job interview when you're in college, and you get there and people say, well, you sound different on the phone. How did I sound different on the phone? No, I look different in person than what you thought because I was articulate. And so I didn't represent what you thought I was. And so coming in, this is where these owners are. All this is affirmative action. And the minute you pass affirmative action, Charlton, then it bypasses the African-American coaches, and it opens the door for other people. You have to label it to what it is. Stop saying minority coaches. Start saying black coaches. Because everybody, when you look at a player in any particular league, they don't say, well, that's a minority player.
Yeah.
They say an African-American player.
Yeah.
They don't say a minority coach. They say African-American coach. So say a rule for African-American coaches. You got to do separation when you do these things. You cannot lump Hispanic coaches in it, Ron Rivera. You can't do that. You can't lump the female coaches in there, Charlton. You can't. If you have a rule for African-American coaches, slate it. It's for African-American coaches, just like you wouldn't let African-Americans play quarterback, center, and middle linebacker for decades in the NFL.
Yeah, I think a solution, in my opinion, is treat everybody the way you treat the white guys. Okay? If you know their name, just give them a job. That happens to white people. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio Podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on an app that I love called Google. Our Alexa, just say Google. Our Alexa, play Big C Sports Podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear welcome to the show. I will introduce Big C as the Mystic, and he'll do his thing from 3,000 miles away. And I really appreciate the way things are growing with Big C Sports. In the last few minutes, Big C, the NFL says that the key to helping players get back to camp and start the season is more testing and how they will handle this testing, keeping athletes safe. However, in Manchester, England, there have been 6 soccer players that have tested positive for COVID-19 as they are trying to resume soccer in their leagues across the pond. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, in that Manchester, England test, I think they tested about 760 players, and that number came up positive, Charlton. When you think about the NFL and you have, a couple thousand active players in the NFL.
Yeah.
And the NFL game is a lot closer physically than what soccer is.
Yeah.
So when you think about the possibility of transmitting from one to the other in the NFL, that's 100%. Soccer, it might be way down at 10, 15% because of the distance that they are on the field.
Yeah.
But in football, you touching every play, so it's a 100% chance of transmitting. And how do you protect the players? The players are intelligent, Charlton. They're not just going to walk out there because you open up the training facility. You're going to have to test them. You're going to have to protect them because they have families, they have friends that they're going to go back around once they leave that practice facility, Charlton. So, the NFL is going to have to come out with a lot more safeguards. Just because you open the door to practice facilities, you're not going to get a rush of players running through the door.
I think they'll get enough mice to run through that door, Big C. Final story, Olympic finalist runner banned 4 years for evading testing. They test athletes for doping, Big C. In Lausanne, Switzerland, Olympic finalist Braylon Taplin lost his appeal against a 4-year ban for dodging a doping test, and he's going to miss the Tokyo Games next year. Think about this. He's a runner, isn't he? He's 28 years old. Maybe he saw Forrest Gump when he was out for a run and forgot to make a pit stop, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, they might ban him for the Olympics next year, Charlton. Who knows that the Olympics is going to exist? But as a runner, you're going to dodge a lot of things because people can't catch you.
Yep, that's very true. Big C, back in the day, there's a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man, and he would always tell Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young man, rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, Charlton, I want to tell the sports leagues and the universities and everybody, trust the science, believe in the science. We understand that we're all losing money behind this COVID-19, but you also got to remember who shut down the country and who's going to bring the country back. The people of America, but you need to be alive to bring the country back. And thank you once again to the frontline healthcare workers and all of those doctors and nurses.
And amen to that. And by the way, how about we ask our first responders when we should bring sports back? They're the ones who have seen them when they check into the hospital. You can follow Big C Sports every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide. You can follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America at Big C Sports. Has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. As we always tell you, that's never, ever an excuse for domestic violence. If you know any man or woman going through that garbage, please pick up the phone and call 911, because no man or woman should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you, on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.